So the Tar Heels, it's funny. Last week, Lewis, we got a question from an NC State fan to ask about Kevin Keatts and the moves that they've made in the transfer portal. And he said, hey, if you were to describe what Keatts is cooking, what would it be? And I said fajitas. Because there's a lot of sizzle, but that doesn't mean the fajitas are going to be good, but it's certainly drawing attention. And Giglio was like, yeah, when somebody orders fajitas, everybody's looking.
Yeah.
In the restaurant, like, oh, somebody got fajitas. It's kind of what State did.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, North Carolina is rebuilding their roster under Hubert Davis, and there's been no sizzle. I would not describe it as fajitas.
No.
Okay.
Which is good.
Which is fine. Maybe that's what they need.
Yes.
I don't know what kind of food it would be. Maybe if we're sticking with the Mexican restaurant theme, he's just getting a burrito, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's just low key, and it's going to deliver, hopefully.
We'll cut into it and see what happens.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So the pieces they've added are exactly that. They've just been complementary pieces, but they added somebody this weekend from Stanford through the transfer portal that has people intrigued and maybe gives a better idea of what the Tar Heels are doing. Harrison Ingram, coming from Stanford, where he averaged 10.5 points and 6.2 rebounds in 2 seasons at Stanford. He's a former McDonald's All-American, a 2021 McDonald's All-American. His stats are not going to wow you, but when you dig a little deeper, you find out from usage rate and from his assist rate, it's starting to make sense what Hubert's trying to do.
Yeah, he's you mentioned this before the show. He's complimenting the stars that are there.
Yes,
Armando Bacot, RJ Davis.
Yeah, if you had any doubt as to whose team it was going into the season, it is Armando and RJ straight up, and the moves that are being made are to complement that.
Well, and it's when you watched UNC basketball last year, obviously there were a lot of wild shots being taken. There were a lot of interesting decisions being made, but so often everything was just so stagnant. There was no movement of any kind. It felt like you're like, why is no one running a set? What's going on here? Like, everyone's just kind of standing still. And Harrison Ingram, you mentioned the assist rate. That's one of the things he brings to the table. Is he's more of he's a small forward type, but 6'7", 230. But he likes to have the ball in his hands. He likes to operate in a way where he's facilitating the offense. He's not the best shooter by any means. He's not bad, but he's not great. He shoots I think it's 30%, 31% from three. But having the opportunity to just be a complementary piece, I think is going to be huge for him. His usage rate was almost 25%, which is wild.
Again, I'm not going to act or pretend that I watched a lot of Stanford basketball, but those who did will just tell you that Ingram found himself in a bad spot where he was carrying a team, and that's where the usage rate comes in. So it's a change of scenery. It's a fit. What's your role on this team? And then again, that gets back to clearly what Hubert Davis wants this team to be, a team that is predicated on Armando Bacot and RJ Davis. And I know a name that's been kicked around. I know our friend Cheryl McMillan over at Inside Carolina, I saw Field of 68 point this out as well, that if you're looking for Ingram's potential role, people keep bringing up Theo Pinson back in 2018.
Yes.
So what was Theo Pinson doing in 2018?
Well, he was essentially operating that kind of point forward type role where his athleticism was crazy, but he was fitting into what his role was, helping to facilitate that offense, taking the shots where needed, playing good defense, doing whatever he could to essentially be the glue guy, if you will. Now, Harrison Ingram is not Theo Pinson, so I think everyone should just take a deep breath from
a Tar Heel favorite. Will he crash press conferences?
Something tells me he will not.
Okay, I just want to double check.
Those moments live in my mind forever. But no, so maybe not the direct comparison, but it's that type of role, which I think is something that this Carolina offense in particular has desperately needed. Someone else who can facilitate, someone else who can take the pressure off of the primary ball handlers. Let RJ Davis, on occasion, go find his shot. Go do his thing instead of trying to have to be just the straight point guard the entire time. Complementing more of what that team has. I think that's going to be really big. If he doesn't have to be out here averaging 6 assists a night type thing, but someone who, has a great assist to turnover ratio, who facilitates offense and does not let things stall. That's what Carolina needs.
So right now, the additions to the Tar Heels have included, it got off to a little bit of a quiet start with Paxton Wojcik. Now, that's a fun story because Doug Wojcik was an assistant. There's a picture of Paxton as a baby at the Smith Center. Now he gets to replicate that. Okay, cool. So he's coming over. He was at, Brown.
Yes.
And then that was followed up by Jalen Withers, Louisville. Again, another complimentary piece. that can be on the wing. And then I think things started to click. The light bulb started to go on for people when it was Cormac Ryan from Notre Dame coming through. Now, here's a guy who can shoot, but again, a complementary piece that's going to work within whatever offense that Hubert Davis wants to run. Also, and Gilio brought this up last week when we started getting an idea of what this team was going to look like. It could be possible that the lineup opens up a little bit too, a little bit more of a rotation that we didn't see. And who's to say that a lot of that didn't have to do with the fact that, hey, Caleb Love needed those minutes to go along with R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot. So if you have everybody understanding their role, you might see almost, I don't want to liken it one for what Duke did, but you'll remember Duke last season ran through a lot of different lineups, some of it because of necessity, because of injuries. The other way is just how John Shire wants to run that team. Have everybody step up when they need to step up. That could be what Hubert Davis is trying to do.
Well, and to me, that's like one of the biggest question marks about Hubert, just as a coach in general, right? Is how does he continue to handle and manage just rotations and depth minutes like that? So to me, because when you look at everyone who left, I know there's a lot of, so many people left Carolina. Well, so many people who did leave Carolina were coming off the bench, were those who were not getting those extra minutes necessarily that I think anyone in college basketball nowadays would be wanting at a program like Carolina. So I think that's really going to be is key, right? Is what do these players? It's great, having someone like Paxton Wojcik or Jalen Withers come through, but if they're not playing, then what's the point?
Right. No, I'm with you on that. I don't know if we don't know what Hubert Davis's coaching style or because there's a transitionary piece here. And it's one thing that I was screaming in year one when people were mad about Hubert Davis and the record not really being great until they went on their run. Obviously, we know the rest is history. And people were very upset about how last year played out because he didn't really do the things he said he was going to do in terms of the rotation and depth and everything else. And they kept largely making the same mistakes. But again, I viewed that as a carryover of a core group that Roy Williams had brought in. So I looked at it more of the group than I did the coaches, that this group had not lived up to the hype. At some point, you do have to put the onus on the players. You have to be careful about it. They are college players at the end of the day.
They're kids.
There was enough data on the group to kind of understand what they were, because it wasn't like they were great in Roy's last season.
No.
Okay? So I've been screaming, let's just wait to see what this program looks like when it's Hubert's guys, when he really has a say in the roster. And I know what the pushback on that is. Well, didn't he recruit these guys into Roy Williams? Y'all, Roy's the coach.
Exactly.
Okay? They're coming to play for Roy. He might have been instrumental in recruiting, but ultimately it's Roy's guys. So we'll see how this goes going forward. But as with all things transfer portal, you have two things that I always keep in mind. The first one is let's wait till the roster shakes out. I think we've seen that now. We got an idea of what UNC is trying to do. And then the second part, your guess is as good as mine, man. Your guess is as good as mine. They might hit, they might not.
No.
And if you thought recruiting was a little bit of a crapshoot, so can the transfer portal.